And we are live for episode 45 of Lowering the Barrier, coming up on the big 5-0.
Wow.
Yeah, halfway to 100 for my mathematicians out there. But not yet. We're close, but not yet. We have some very exciting news. I'm not going to name drop them yet, but we have some awesome guests lined up for the next 3 podcasts. Very, very excited. Now, I don't know exactly when the sequencing, like when they'll come out. They're on my schedule, but I don't know if we'll be able to plug one in there. But anyway, the next 3 guests that are lined up are very, very interesting. One is an allergist. One is a doctor who specializes in obesity management and GLP-1 specifically. And then another one is a fellow coach. So very, very excited. The allergy one in particular, selfishly, for both me and my son's sake, I'm really excited for that one. Anyway, we're recording this on Memorial Day. It is finally warmed up in Michigan.
Yes.
Maddie has started a garden. You want to tell us about that at all?
I got all my plants this morning. Yep. So tomorrow probably will be our big garden day.
Nice. Yeah. Very exciting stuff. And on my end, let's see, on World of Warcraft, we downed the heroic raid. Yeah. So got AOTC, which is really exciting. Basically just an achievement called Ahead of the Curve. It doesn't matter. You guys don't care about this. And I'm launching Pivot, the coaching platform, specifically like a check-in platform, in probably about 2 weeks from now. So yeah, really exciting on that. Been a good couple years of work on that, and it's finally coming to a head. So, all right, let's get into today's episode now. And just a second. Okay, great. Today we are going to be talking about the all or nothing mindset and what to do about it. And this is a mentality that people describe themselves as too frequently. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear it a little bit too often, and there are pros about ascribing yourself as this, and there are cons to it. And I think personally, the cons outweigh the pros, but there is logic behind why somebody calls themselves an all or nothing kind of person. So we're just going to start off with an example, and maybe this will sound familiar. If it does, if it checks the box, then yeah, man, this is going to be a great episode for you. So let's say you ate, air quote, perfectly all week, and then you had a slice of cake on Saturday. You say, F it. You say, you know what? The week is ruined. I'm just going to give up. I'm not cut out. Or maybe you have a great few days or week of weight loss progress. And then one day, maybe you eat a little bit more. Maybe you don't even eat a little bit more. One day the scale is up 2 pounds and you think, you know what? All my progress just went down the drain. Screw it. I'm done. These things, maybe it's you getting sick. You're in a really good gym routine, then you get sick. You have an injury. You go on vacation, anything like that. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think it can also happen on a smaller scale too, of like your breakfast and lunch are great, and then dinner gets a little crazy, and it's like, oh, yeah, there it goes. And then it's like, well, what's the point of, tomorrow or the next day? Like, I think it can happen day to day even versus just like.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we are in the fitness and nutrition ecosystem industry. So that's how we see it play out the most. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious, I'm sure teachers have seen this with students, mm-hmm. The perfectionist kind of mindset. I'm sure coaches have seen this, with like sports coaches. And even maybe in some workplace scenarios, although I do find that when I try to draw analogies back to a workplace, people are like, if I show up 5 minutes late, I don't just go home. Like, that's not how that works.
It does feel like there are certain instances or areas that this shows up more than others.
It's when you are allowing yourself an out.
Yeah.
Is when it, that's the tough way of putting it. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Here's my honest truth. I see all or nothing as, again, and I am going to talk about why it makes sense. But my bias coming into this is that I see it as giving yourself an easy out. Mm-hmm. If you say I'm an all or nothing person, what it means is as soon as it gets a little bit challenging, I give up.
Yeah.
That's the tough love from me. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what we are naming this pattern, the all or nothing mentality, why it makes sense, and then we will cover, the strategies, the tools to work yourself out of it if you so choose. So, first, when we think about the all or nothing mentality, we have to think it is this I am, and this, I'm sure all of you already know this, you are all in or you are all out. And it makes sense. Hang with me here. When you hear it, you're like, oh, that, probably shouldn't do that. I think everybody could agree. It's probably not the right thing where we need to, we want to be more in the middle. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, our brains are just like, it's not so simple. But the rules that align themselves with the all or nothing thinking, they reduce the cognitive load. And I've talked about cognitive load a good bit in the past. We make so many decisions every single day. The less decision, the easier we can make it on ourselves, the more likely we are to stick with something. Mm-hmm. And so when somebody says, like, I'm cutting out sugar, I'm cutting out carbs, I am doing a fast, I am doing, these really, really, really strict rules. And maybe it's even something like I'm doing intermittent fasting. There's pros, cons to that. But it creates this really rigid structure that for some people can be easier to work within. It's a very easy decision to make. And it can create early momentum. If you say like, oh, I'm only going to eat from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., it's like the first few days, that might be super, super simple. Mm-hmm. And you start kind of getting those wins, right? And then at some point, your friend is like, hey, do you want to meet for dinner at 5:30? You're like, oh my God. Oh no. What if we did 4:30? And they're like, no, my kid has a thing. I can't do 4:30. And you're like, okay, wait, hold on. And for some people, they might have the cognitive flexibility to say like, okay, well, this is just like a one-time thing.
Sure.
This doesn't make me good or bad. Mm-hmm. It's just, I'm just moving it back for one day. It's fine.
Right.
And other people are like, that breaks every rule that I've built for the last 3 days. Now I can't do this. Some areas, this kind of black or white thinking makes a lot of sense. Sobriety,
mm-hmm. Right.
Quitting alcohol, quitting smoking, like things like that. It makes a lot of sense. Getting clean from drugs. Mm-hmm. That makes a whole lot of sense to have this all or nothing. Like I am removing myself from the environment. I am removing myself. I'm completely done, mm-hmm. going cold turkey. That might make a lot of sense in certain situations. Same with, safety. I put on my seatbelt every single time. I am an all or nothing person when it comes to seatbelt usage. Right. I am always using my seatbelt. I'm not like this middle ground, like, nah, mm-hmm. It's a 5-minute drive. No, it's just, that is something I always do. I always brush my teeth. That is something I always do. Mm-hmm. And then even like financial rules, some people, they might, kind of get a little bit, with the budget, they're a little flexible, and other people find that, okay, we are spending, maybe $3,000 per month or something like that. We have the mortgage, we have the insurance, we have the, car payments, whatever it is, groceries, and we have a little bit of wiggle room, and that's it.
Right.
Now, some people will push that a little bit, and some people do better with these strict rules. And so I think there is clearly logic to it. It makes sense for people to want to, live this all or nothing life with fitness and nutrition. And it might work until life interrupts. Mm-hmm. And then that mentality becomes the very reason you quit. It became the reason that you started. It was the reason that you built some momentum, but then it's the reason that you quit. And the problem wasn't the rule itself. It was the inability to recover from breaking it. Mm-hmm. Mike Tyson has, I think it was Mike Tyson who said it's not about, not Mike Tyson, Rocky Balboa. Same idea. One is fictional and one is real. Anyway, But Rocky Balboa said, it's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard or how many times you can get hit and keep getting up or something like that. How many times you fall down and you get back up. For my Rocky fans, I'm so sorry for messing up that quote, not nailing it verbatim, but that's the idea of it is when you consider yourself all or nothing, it is on or off. It's like a light switch. And we need to see it as instead of on or off light switch, on or off with a dimmer switch, where we can ramp it up a little bit, we can ramp it down a little bit, and we have to adjust because at no point are we going to be able to commit to 100% every single day of the week, every week of the year, and every year of our life.
Yeah. And one other thing, I don't coach people, so I have less experience, but I feel like a lot of times when people kind of fall into this all or nothing trap or mentality or whatever you want to call it, a lot of times it feels like it's not just one thing. Like there's like a laundry list of things that they like expect, if that makes sense. Like it's not just a dietary like guideline or like here's my calorie target, I have to hit this, or I'm trying to lose weight and it has to be like this. But it's also like, and I'm gonna walk 10,000 steps every day, and I'm gonna go to the gym 5 times a week. And like I feel like it also is just an overall, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but like it's overhaul. An intensity.
It's a lifestyle overhaul that does not match where they were compared to where they want to go. And a lot of people in my coaching experience, I mean, you've seen what I've coached. I talked to you about, what I do and stuff like that. You live with me. So yeah, it is this, when I've had so many clients, when I bring on new clients, for example, how many days do you want to work out? That's like a really common question I ask if they're a lifting client, not just a nutrition client. How many days do you want to work out? They throw out a number. Mm-hmm. How many days per week? 5, 6, 7 days per week. It's like, okay, how many days are you exercising right now? 1, 0, 2, you know? It's like, oh, wow. Okay. So can you tell me about this, excitement to push forward? Yeah, well, I just feel really motivated right now and I just want to capture that. Love that.
Right.
Love that energy. However, what happens, whenever I think about planning for the long run, I don't want to have 1 good week, 2 great weeks, 3 great weeks. I want to have a very realistic rest of your life.
Right.
And so instead of planning for the best day, the best week, the best month, I ask, how many times could you exercise on your absolute busiest week? Walk me through what your busiest week looks like.
Right.
They have work commitments, they have dinners out, they have kids doing stuff, etc. Things like that. And then it's like, I could probably squeeze one in on Tuesday morning, and then, okay, Saturday, my wife, my husband, they could take the kids, and I could probably get down to the gym for maybe 45 minutes. It's like, okay, so twice per week for 45 minutes. That feels really realistic. And they're like, yes. Amazing. Let's start there. We can always add more. Mm-hmm. But I'd rather have somebody feel really good about this minimum, and then feel awesome if we did a bonus workout, some extra credit, so to speak, rather than setting up like 5 days per week. Goes well for the first 4 days, to be honest, and then the 5th day, it's like, yeah, I got really busy. It's like I foresaw that because I do this professionally, and it's so. I think that is a really good point that you brought up, which is whether you are starting this or restarting this, and by this I mean like fitness, nutrition, getting in shape, all that, whether you are starting or you are restarting, make the smallest change that you can realistically stick to on your worst week. Mm-hmm. Do that for 2 or 3 weeks and then add in another thing. So instead of being like, I'm going to lift 5 days per week, I'm going to do 10,000 steps per day, I'm throwing out every yummy food in my pantry and fridge, and I'm going to start eating 35 grams of fiber a day. It's like, okay, whoa. First off, you're going to be exhausted from that jump and exercise. Your belly's going to hurt from jumping that much in fiber, probably, right? We want to be gradual with our fiber increase over time. Go listen to the gut health podcast, the last one, if you're curious about that, or Fiber 101. I don't remember what episode that was, but a while back. Anyway, and just pick one thing. I don't remember. Oh, I was thinking about the steps one, how instead of going that you don't need 10,000 steps, that 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 is great. But that was a YouTube video that we ended up kind of scrapping a little bit, putting on the, it's sitting on the shelf.
Yeah. It's like 80%
it's like
edited.
Anyway. So I think that's a really good point that, just make the simple change and make one change at a time. Now, we wrote down some analogies that might help make this stick for you or seem a little bit relatable. And I feel like I've already used a few of them here, but I don't know, it feels like a waste to not go through these. So, if you ran out of gas, or I think we've all seen those Instagram videos where somebody spills a little bit of water and then they like throw their hands up and then just dump all the water on the ground, or a tire pops, you get a flat tire, so go ahead and slash the other three.
Right.
You drop a sock on the ground from your laundry and then you just like throw out your entire laundry bin on the ground. It's stuff like that.
And like when you're watching it, you're thinking like, oh, like that's so dramatic, clearly, like that's so silly.
Right. But it's like super, super, super real. So honestly, I don't think we need to really go into these analogies too much, but I do want to talk about a conversation I had recently with a woman named Shannon. Shannon was applying for one-on-one coaching, and she mentioned that she was a type A personality. She was, she's always been like, needs to be by the book, very much a planner, very much all or nothing. And I asked her, what do you do for work? Let me just take a step back. What do you do for work? She tells me what she does for work. And I said, has that job always gone perfectly? She said, no, there are a lot of days where, things don't go to plan and I have to make the best of it. It's like, oh, that's interesting. And she's kind of catching on. And I say, before you did that, tell me about in college, after you graduated, how did school go? She goes, well, actually, the first time I took she was RD. First time she took an RD exam, a registered dietitian exam, she failed. And I said, did you just give up? Did you say that like maybe being a registered dietitian isn't for me? She goes, no, I studied harder and I did it again. It's like, oh, okay. And I said, when you started applying for jobs, did you get the first job that you applied for? No. Okay, so you started applying for multiple jobs. I said, does any of this sound like all or nothing? Does any of this sound like you tried your hardest, it didn't work, so you gave up? She said, no. It's like, okay, so in every other aspect of your life, you are admitting that you are not all or nothing. And every other aspect of your life, you are operating in this middle ground, this, I will do my best, and if it doesn't pan out, I will try again. So why are you not telling yourself that same story when it comes to your fitness and nutrition? And it's like light bulbs went off, right? And I think this is the problem that I have with people. To me, the all or nothing mentality and type A personality, these are not positive attributes that are like overwhelmingly positive attributes. And I think if you're not assigning yourself overwhelmingly positive attributes, get rid of them. Like get rid of anything that is kind of like wishy-washy, like type A, like, like all or nothing. Like, I don't know, stubborn, maybe, like that. There can be pros, cons there, but think about what labels you are telling yourself. Like some really overwhelmingly positive examples, for example, would be, I am highly adaptable.
Mm-hmm.
I am confident. Mm-hmm. And like we can recognize that we have flaws in ourselves and not get too egotistical,
right,
without, allowing the negative stories that we tell ourselves, because all or nothing is not like, it's not like this. It's not this fact. I have 2 hands. That is a fact, right? I have 10 toes last time I counted. That is a fact, right? Your brain, if you just say like, as a fact, I am all or nothing, you are downplaying the capability of your own change to such an impressive magnitude that you should slap yourself in the face. Like it's so I frequently tell people the way that we speak to ourselves, we would never allow somebody to speak to our best friend, our mom, our sibling, our child that way. We would want to we would want to have some words with them, trying to not be explicit here, right? We would have words with that person. We would be so unhappy with that person. So why don't we treat ourselves, that voice inside of our heads, the exact same way? That's the problem I have with telling yourself these stories that you made up, you live within. You can just change the story at any given time. You can be like, you know what? I guess I'm not all or nothing. I'm going to go work out for 10 minutes.
Right.
Instead of like, I haven't worked out in the last week. Go do it for 10 minutes. Right now, if you've been putting off the workout, this is your sign. In the middle of this episode, right now, go do one set of push-ups. Go do one set of squats. You don't even have to go into a gym. You could do it on your home, kitchen floor or something.
Right.
Explain it to your significant other or sibling, maybe. You're not sibling, child, maybe, or sibling. I don't know who you live with. But yeah, that's where I kind of get a little bit worked up is when we start believing these false stories, these false narratives that we've created for ourselves, and it doesn't propel us forward. I think the person who speaks highly of themselves is the person who will make it really far. The common phrase of like, whether you can or you can't, you are right. Or whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you are right.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah. I think you can identify as like, I am a very organized person. I prefer things to be XYZ. Yeah. But that does not mean that you are incapable of doing anything that is not XYZ.
Right.
And it's not to say that type A is worse than type B. Like, whatever you prescribe, like, there's just flexibility in all of it. Like, none of it is so set in stone that you can't suddenly just do something different.
Yeah. I mean, go through if you do identify as all or nothing, or you do identify as type A or type B or whatever it is, right? If you took a Myers-Briggs test or Enneagram, 45-9 AJBIKNLMP, whatever these things are, right? INFJ-A, oh, I'm leaning this way. Whatever traits you say that you are, look at the good in them and discard the bad.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's horoscopes. Maybe it's where Mercury is in retrograde and your sun is rising, moon is cresting. I don't care. Right? You are an adaptable human being. I don't care who's listening to this.
Right.
Anybody here is capable of, because think about a newborn baby.
Yeah.
They don't know much.
Yeah.
That song that I really like, Same Vine.
Yes.
By Slim George. Slim Dan.
Yeah.
Great musician. Shout out Slim Dan. Kind of indie. I actually haven't pulled up my Spotify right now. Anyway, great song. But he basically says it's a very cute song about his newborn child and how right now he is so dumb that he doesn't know anything, but that he loves him so much and he's going to one day be smarter than him. Like, the child will be smarter than the musician. And, there's more to it than just that, but that is like one section of the song. And it's like, imagine if we told that child, like, you are going to stay this little flesh potato for the rest of your life. You're never going to speak. You're never going to be able to think new thoughts. Yeah. It's like, I think that's how a lot of people perceive themselves at a certain point. You hit 30, you hit 40, you hit 50, you hit
and that's just who you are now.
That's just who you are now.
The whole, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I could seriously ramble about this. I recently kind of did on Jordan Lipp's podcast. And the title of, or his podcast, Where Optimal Meets Practical, if you're curious. Anyway. And it's like, I don't know. Who we identify as can change very quickly. And it does take like this story that we craft, but it takes time to believe that story that we tell ourselves. When I started in when I was in high school, and then I went into college, I kind of had this like mental shift of, okay, I don't really want to be like just that nerdy kid anymore. I wasn't like mega nerd or anything, but like I definitely was like playing World of Warcraft, still am playing World of Warcraft in my buddy's basement, like on the weekends when other people are going out partying. Like that is still my preference, to be fair. That is still my preference, except now it's like, we're adults and we don't go to our parents' basements anymore. Although it'd be a dope time. But I changed it to like, okay, none of these people know me, right? And so that is a great time for a fresh restart. Mm-hmm. Now, if you kind of have the same social circle, you're not going and getting a divorce. If you are, sorry if you're getting a divorce. But like you're with the same significant other. You have the same kids. You have the same friends, same coworkers. Trying to change who you are, what you do, and the story about yourself, your identity, so to speak, that might be an uphill battle, mm-hmm. but that doesn't mean it's not worth it. Right. You can absolutely make that change whenever you want. Okay, you can go on about this. I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, no, we can move on.
No, please.
I was just gonna say, like, once upon a time, a lot of my friends knew me as someone who like drank and did, whatever. I stopped drinking and like no one cares. like so I think we put a lot of stock into like, oh, well, they're gonna like the people around me or know me as one thing. Like no, like, and I mean this positively. No one is thinking about you as much as you are thinking of yourself. Obviously, like your husband or your spouse or significant other, like your family. Yes, obviously they're thinking about you, but like no one is analyzing your decisions like that in a way that's like negative.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Nobody cares. Like, and that's really freeing. Nobody cares.
We say that all the time. Like, okay, but who cares?
Who cares?
Like, who's paying attention? Like, like sometimes if Milo, our son, is freaking out in the grocery store and people are like looking, it's like, okay, but in like 10 minutes, no one's going to think about it. Like, it doesn't matter.
They don't care. No, nobody cares. Yeah, the person who's like upset about a baby crying on like a flight.
Yeah,
it's like, okay. What do you want? Okay, I'm doing my best. The child is doing their best.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Like, just, shrug it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you are in that situation where you have a significant other, because I've heard this a lot, I've talked with, hundreds of women at this point, and hundreds of women, not all of them, of course, not all of them, but because some of them have really, really, really supportive significant others, there are some men and some women that I have spoken to a lot who, when I ask what is their primary obstacle, they do not skip a beat. They say, my spouse, my husband, my wife, they are the main obstacle for me. And it's always like, ooh, that's tough. Now, like I said, they are the biggest supporter. They will do, they are trying to learn calorie tracking for me. They are pre-entering, they're entering recipes. They're sharing it with me. That's awesome when you have that. But if you are not lucky enough to have that, maybe they are, maybe fitness has been a huge obstacle for them. And they are just like, I'm not on the same page. Like, I'm not ready to make that health change. Have a serious conversation with them. Because if you've chosen this person as your partner for life, I would hope that they would support. Because it's not like you're saying like, "Hey, I want to start gambling. Like, I want to take out the money.
Positive change.
I want to take out the money from our investments and go to Las Vegas. What do you think? Like, this is a positive change,
right? That
should be very positive for both of you. And yeah, there's a time investment to all these things, but I just think having those like maybe semi uncomfortable conversations are really important to have. Okay. So we do have some practical strategies here where 5 of them for people who are trying to get more in the middle, especially when it comes to, really with anything, but really with fitness and nutrition. Do you want to just walk us through these? Because I've been yapping.
Yeah. Some of these I feel like we've already kind of talked about. Like this first one, shoot for the minimum. So instead of like focusing on I have to do this, and it has to be perfect, it has to be 100% accurate. It's just like, okay, what's the bare minimum that you can do consistently? So is it like, can you go for a walk, or can you have an extra vegetable at dinner, or like what is the bare minimum choice that you can make. Obviously, there's a whole laundry list of what that might look like.
When on days when I am absolutely exhausted, but I know that I should lift weights. Now, I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm not that guy who's like, oh, I need to exercise 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I'm pretty muscular at this point, but it's because I've just like been really flexible for the last 12, 13, 14 years of lifting.
Yeah.
I don't care that much on a day-to-day basis. Like I care on a global scale, like overall, but if I'm way too tired one day, it is what it is. It's fine. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. But when there are a lot of days that I do negotiate with myself because I know I have a very few busy days coming up. And so what I'll do instead is I'll say, I'm just going to do, and I'm not kidding about this, I'm going to do 2 sets of pull-ups. I'm going to do 1 set of bicep curls, because bicep curls, it's not like it's like a split squat, right? Where it's like, this is going to be kind of draining, to be honest. I don't want to do this. And I have to do 2 sides. That sucks.
Yeah.
A bicep curl, it's like, that builds momentum. Usually after I do a bicep curl, it's like, well, I'm warm. I'm already here.
Yeah.
And I'll do a bench press. I'll do something, right? And so a lot of times I'll start with my most fun exercise, or the one that feels like I could absolutely do this. And then if I'm mentally drained at the end of 1 set, which took me 30 seconds, I'll just not do any more. I'll just go back inside, right? Now, I have a home gym, so this makes it really easy.
Right.
If you do not have a home gym, what I'd recommend to you is just do some push-ups.
Yeah.
Just do some squats.
Something you can do very easily.
Just do something you can do super easily at home. Just go for a walk. Just run. When I was in the throes of a fat loss phase in the winter, and it would be 30 degrees in the gym, it's like that would be a little bit of a that's a barrier. I don't want to be I don't want to be super cold right now. It's just it's warm in here and it's really cold in the gym. And I couldn't get my steps in because we have 10 inches of snow. So what I would do is I'd be playing games with my friends, like video games, and during loading screens, I would just get up and run in place for like a minute 30, like in between games. That would add up to like 5,000 steps.
Right.
I mean, it's like that adds up so much. And so, think about what is the minimum you can absolutely commit to, like Matti said, and feel good about that. All right, go ahead and move on to the next one.
Yeah, I feel like this one kind of is similar, but like widen the definition of what counts. And like one example of this, it's not specifically fitness or nutrition, but like, let's say you had a hobby that you do like once a week, once a month, like you still do that thing. You know what I mean? Like that still counts. So like if you are a painter, but you only paint once a month, like that still counts as painting.
Yeah. That's a great tie into just like thinking about rethinking about your identity. At what point do you become a fitness person?
Right.
At what point?
Right.
This is not a protected title, guys. You can call yourself a fitness person right now.
Yeah.
Like you can do that. You can go from somebody, you're like, oh yeah, I'm just kind of a fitness person and I go for a walk once a week. Anybody challenges that, give them a middle finger.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? You're a fitness person. In my book, you like eating strawberries. You're conscious about your diet.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. you're a healthy, I don't know, you're a healthy person. Anyway, so yeah, in addition to widening the definition of what counts, like what you said, I also want to go back to the workout thing. A lot of times workouts are set up as 3 sets of this, 4 sets of this, 3 sets, 5 sets, whatever. Just do 1.
Yeah.
Just do 1 set. If you're ever low on time, rather than like cutting out exercises, just do 1 or 2 sets, because the first few sets are the most stimulative and there are diminishing returns. Every time you do a subsequent set, it's a little bit less of stimulus you're getting from that. So, if I have 5 exercises and it's like 3 sets each, right? Instead of being, if I'm like, okay, I'm not mentally in the place to do this right now, I'll just do 1 set of all or just some of the exercises.
I'll be honest, not saying that y'all should be like me, but I'll be honest, I don't know the last time I've done 3 sets of an exercise.
I do not know the last time you have either. Yeah, she doesn't.
I do 2 sets of every exercise and that's it.
She doesn't love exercising. I would call you a person who cares about their health.
Yeah.
A person like a fitness.
Right.
You're into fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than but like like I'm saying, like I can't imagine the last time I've done 3 sets of an exercise.
Yeah. And so like that doesn't, doing one set of each exercise for a workout, that doesn't mean that you did too little. That doesn't mean you're a failure. What that means is like, wow, you are so flexible. Like cognitively, you're so flexible. You're so disciplined. Like you did it when you really didn't want to, and you made the most of that. Like again, this is reinforcing the stories that we tell ourselves are so important, and they help solidify that identity that we are working toward on a daily, weekly, monthly, and lifelong basis. Okay, let's go to the next one.
The next one. I'll be honest, I don't love this one personally.
I don't love this one.
But I do think it works for some people.
Yeah.
But it's this idea of like never miss twice.
Yeah. For me, this comes back to the all or nothing.
Yeah.
Because
what happens if you do have to miss twice?
Yeah, what if you miss 3 times?
Like, oh shoot.
3 times you're out.
You're sick and suddenly like a whole week is done. Like what happens then? But I also get the sentiment of like, get back to it. Like,
just get back to it.
You didn't do it once. Like it's okay. Get back to it. So I can see some instances where this is maybe like beneficial, but I don't think that this is like a hard and fast, like great strategy for all the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is a really common one, never miss twice. And I wanted to keep it in here because it is so common, and yet I somewhat don't agree with it. But going back to the Mike Tyson / Rocky Balboa quote, who's to say? Somebody pull up,
someone said it.
Someone said it, probably. If not, I said it. Who cares? The title of this episode should be "Who Cares."
Yeah, who cares?
But it's how quickly can you get back to those routines? That is what that tells me so much more than somebody who is, oh yeah, I'm on a 28-day logging streak for my calorie tracking, or oh, I haven't missed a workout in 3 months. It's like, what happens when you do?
Yeah,
that is what is interesting to me. What happens when you go on vacation? For the people who want to, if you are using a tool like calorie tracking, one of the questions I ask people is, what happens after this? Whether it's fat loss, you are working to lose weight, you are you have this weight goal in mind, you have a body composition in mind, and you're staying in the deficit for this long, you're using tracking as a tool for this long. What happens when you get there? That is the question that I'm always very interested in, because is it, oh, well, I'll just stop tracking and that's fine. I'm not the guy to be like, oh, you have to track forever. I'm the opposite of that. I don't want you to track forever.
Right.
I want you to use. I don't want you to use. I don't care. I don't care what you use or what you don't use. That's up to you, right? But what I do care about is that if you do choose to use tracking as a tool, you are using it to create habits and routines rather than relying on it like a crutch. Because again, if we go from all with tracking every single thing to nothing, and then it's like you feel like I have no clue what I'm doing, we've kind of missed the point in tracking. And okay, so what could a bridge look like for that? Well, it maybe just track some of your meals. If you feel like you have go-to meals for breakfast and lunch, but dinner's kind of a free-for-all, maybe just start tracking dinner, just so you can start building some awareness of like, oh, that's what 650 calories looks like.
Right.
Oh, that's what 30 grams of protein looks like. Oh, that's what 10 grams of fiber looks like. If you start using it that way, that's totally fine. Use the tool as much or as little as you need. And that goes for everything in life. Don't feel like if you start relying on something. One of my friends told me this, the businessman Terry, I'm not going to say his last name. I don't know if he wants anonymity, but he said this to me a few years ago. He says, as soon as you start holding something too tightly is the moment you've lost control of it. And I think that it starts to hold weight over you rather than you keeping control of it. And I think that's really pertinent toward calorie tracking, using it as a tool when it starts to feel like you can't live without it. That's where we've gotten into the problem zone. Okay, kind of got on a little tangent there.
Yeah, and that actually really goes.
Wait, hold on. I didn't even read ahead. That's so funny.
You've pretty much covered the next one.
Yeah.
The next one, like we wrote it as like giving up tracking. And I don't think you necessarily have to give it up, but like the idea of there's a lot of ways to use tracking that is not super stringent. Like eyeballing, estimating, like if you eat a meal and you're like, like you're looking at your plate and it's like, yeah, it's probably 500, 600, 700 calories. Like that can be close enough to kind of use that strategy or that tool.
And I've been tracking my calories for long enough, and you have done it enough with me. You don't really track your calories.
I don't know the last time I tracked a calorie either.
No, and I do it every single day because I'm like constantly either performance goal, physique goal. It's just something that like I do not mind doing. But if somebody were to delete every tracking app off my phone, who cares?
Yeah,
who cares? I wouldn't. I would not. But what we have both been able to do at this point, and I really, really appreciate this, is when you or I feel like we have been low on calories for a day, we're kind of hungry or like we're kind of lethargic. First, we're probably dehydrated.
Yeah. Yeah. When's the last time we drank some water?
Yesterday. Yeah. We were we're getting tired. I was like, we're definitely dehydrated. Anyway. But yeah. Wait, where was I going with that? Oh, we're able to just estimate like, okay, I think breakfast we had this. It was like 500 calories. That was like, I don't know, maybe 600, we'll say 600. And so we can kind of count that out. And we like, that has been really helpful for us on some days where it's like, oh, we've eaten like 1,200 calories. Like,
obviously like that is probably why we feel, that. So like that level of like awareness though probably comes from like, the amount of time. So like if you can't do that, like that's shocking. Like that's kind of normal. To be expected. So just like throwing that out there because like we have an awareness of food calories and all of that I think
that's way beyond because this is like my profession. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and throw out the last practical strategy for finding the middle.
The 20% question. So like if you're being like really, really strict with yourself,
you are tracking every single calorie.
Yeah.
You are working out 5 days a week. You are doing cardio. You are lifting. You are, measuring out every single gram of your watermelon, for example, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of asking yourself, like, what does this all look like as I either get to a maintenance phase or like, I think
what happens if I dial back 20%?
Yes.
That's really what the question is. Like, what if I didn't go this hard? How could I ease this up? There's a book that I was reading recently, which kind of throws forward this premise of what would it look like if this were fun? And this specifically implies, I was just talking to you about this the other, like yesterday, 2 days ago, and specifically applies to like tasks that we don't want to do or some kind of work or something like that. What would it look like if this were fun? Or, I'm going to reframe that to what would it look like if this were easy or easier? If you can apply that to your nutrition, if you can apply that to your exercise, I think that negotiation or that like brainstorming can make it a lot more enjoyable. So like for me, what would exercise look like if it were fun? To be honest, for cardio, like right now, I don't really like going out on the bike that much. I'm doing it because I have to do this thing in Utah. I'm climbing up a mountain in Utah for those that are out of the loop. But, like right now, I pull out my iPad, go on the Peloton, and I play this game on my iPad. 2 hours will go by and it's like I'm having a pretty good time. Like it's at least not miserable. Cardio for me down the road would be really fun if I started playing soccer again. That would be a great time. And so that is one of those things where it's like, how can you make your exercise more fun? Maybe it's finding a gym buddy and lifting with them. Maybe it's just finding exercises that you don't hate. Maybe it is, something as simple as, somebody told me the other day, this is a shameless plug for my group program, the Change Project. They said, I love your group program because I used to overthink every exercise and going to the gym. I wouldn't have a plan. And now I do. And it's like, okay, how can we make this easier? You come in with a plan. You reduce the cognitive load. How can I make it more fun? Maybe you do something with a friend. Maybe it's instead of like going for a run, you start playing pickleball or you start playing soccer. You start playing, something like that. So whenever possible, how can I make it easy? How can I make it fun? If you're on video, you see our dog Rosie right here. She's super clingy. Great guest.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah.
She's a sweet girl.
Okay, let's wrap it up here.
Yep.
So just reiterating a few points. And first, it is if you have been telling yourself that you are an all or nothing person, I need you to understand that that is not this concrete fact. It is not a personality. It is not a part of your being that you can't just let go of. Mm-hmm. If you said, I have 2 thumbs, and if you actually do have 2 thumbs, this is true, right? That is true.
Yeah.
But when it comes to things within our brain, with our personality, with the way we behave, we can change that at any time for positive or negative, ideally for positive, right? And so make that change now. Decide what actions you would need to make. Like if I say like, oh, I am a very consistent person. I'm a very disciplined person. Okay, where is the proof?
Yeah.
How do you build that proof? What would you need to do? What would this super consistent, super disciplined person, what would that look like for you? And not this idealized version of like, oh, I need to do I'm going to start exercising 7 days a week. I'm going to start that person doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That person does not have any responsibilities. They do not have any emotions. You are speaking of a robot. You are a human being, and you need to reduce the burden on yourself, lower the standards. I use the example, if your child wanted to start basketball, you have a 5-year-old kid, 7-year-old kid, whatever. I'll say 7, right? 7-year-old kid, they want to start basketball. You take them out for their first basketball practice. They go to shoot a hoop and they miss. Would you be like, you suck. You suck. Clap, clap, clap. You suck. Like, you wouldn't be doing that in the crowd. You'd be like, hey, little Timmy, I know today was hard, but you are going to get better at it, because that's just the way things work. If you keep showing up and you keep practicing and you don't even give it your best, you give it a little bit, you're going to get better at stuff. And so that's how I want you to treat yourself. Stop putting these labels that are not beneficial to you. Stop putting these labels on yourself. And then the last thing, and I just want to leave it here. This week, this month, but especially this week, after listening to this podcast, when you air quote miss, whatever that means to you, because you will, what is the story that you are telling yourself over the next 30 minutes, after air quote missing? What are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself, oh, wow, I'm a screw up. I can never get this right. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm so lazy. Oh, I hate when people call themselves lazy. Mm-hmm. Then don't be.
Right.
Then like, sometimes you're just tired. If you feel like you're lazy, it's probably because you just had a really hard day. Because you have things stacked against you. You have a lot of obstacles. Very few people are genuinely lazy. Some people, sure, okay, sure, whatever. I fight against that. I do not believe most people. I believe most people just have a lot of stuff going on. They have a lot of decisions to make every day. Finances are a little tight. Prices are going high. Stressors are through the roof, and they're just tired. I do not equate that to laziness. What I think is lazy is, I didn't even want to go into this. What I think is lazy is the billionaire who's contributing nothing to planet Earth and is only trying to get richer. I think that's really lazy. I think that is super lame. I think the person who's trying to do their best is not lazy at all. I actually think they're doing a really good job, and they need to stop telling themselves a negative story. So again, when you miss this week, whatever happens, when there's an obstacle that pops up, please question yourself. What are you saying about yourself? Is it fair? Would you say this to your best friend if they were in a similar situation? If not, step back and slap yourself in the face metaphorically, right? Because what matters is not what you missed. What matters is what comes after it. Who you are, what you do about it, and the decisions that you make going forward. Okay. Good to leave it there?
I think so.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on episode 45. Please do me a favor, and if you haven't already liked, subscribed. I don't know what that sound was. That was weird.
I don't know about that.
Oh, our robot. Alexa, stop. Okay. That was crazy. Please please subscribe. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Share it with a friend if you feel that they would benefit from hearing from this. And we are looking forward to having you for more episodes in the near future. Have a great day.